This is a campaign to publish an anthology of the magazine World War III Illustrated that we started in 1979 and which we are still publishing today.
It's underground comics, it's political comics, it's left comics.
As an all-volunteer collective, we do this as a labor of love, and we do this because we think these voices are important to be heard.
I started doing comics because these guys saw the content of what I was doing and wanted feminist pro-choice art.
We've been involved in all the stories we write. Stories about squatting involved artists being part of the squatters movement. Stories about Occupy involved artists participating in Occupy. We don't pretend to objectivity, rather we seek to increase our subjectivity and our direct involvement in events.
I am a consciousness without a body.
These guys were talking about all the things that were important that weren't being talked about in any, quote-unquote serious media. It was almost a kind of journalism because it reflected a reality that wasn't being acknowledged anywhere else.
I'm really excited about the anthology because I really like the way the timeline shows the connection of the magazine to what was happening and what is happening now in politics. And I feel like without World War III, there wouldn't be a place for a lot of the art.
One of the critical points for me where I understood the importance of the magazine was September 11th. There was very little opportunity to speak about anything that wasn't sort of like in line with a war fever and that didn't toe a party line. People like Art Spiegelman at that time gravitated to World War III because they couldn't get published in mainstream venues. And that's when you really recognize how desperately we need as a culture for democracy to have alternative media.
It's easy for artists when they're doing their own work and not getting a lot of traction or recognition in society. It's easy to feel like, why am I doing this? Why am I bothering? World War III really helped me find a forum for the kind of work that I really wanted to do.
World War III was good for me because I was able to draw about a lot of things that I care about.
World War III prompts people to dig up and put onto paper things that they might never think to turn into a comic.
I had drawn comics while I was in Egypt. I was working for a Cairo-based publication, and I knew that there was this whole Arabic language comic scene that was quite new and quite vibrant. I felt really strongly that something that World War III could contribute would be people from the Arab world telling their stories with their own words and their own pictures.
I don't think that you'll find any publication that debuts as many new artists per issue as we do, in terms of writers, in terms of comic book artists, in terms of the scope of the material.
World War III made me a cartoonist and definitely gave me a place where I felt like I could grow in my politics and my art.
Working with a group of people at World War III has been great. It's really down to earth and from the heart work. Some of the work I'm most proud of is from World War III.
The question always comes up, well, what's the future for World War III? And it's unwritten. It's going to be great and it's going to remain as powerful as it has been as long as people continue to feed it.
Our first Kickstarter campaign is going towards publishing a bigger, richer, full-color book. Hopefully, a collection like this will end up in the hands of a lot of people who would not necessarily know that there are people out there that think like this, that have these ideas, that this can be done.
That's an expensive project that PM Press were willing to take on, to print it in color, to print it hardbound, and to make that available. PM has asked us to do a Kickstarter campaign to help support that project. They deserve people's support in doing that. You don't get in the door and slam it behind you. There needs to be a place where new cartoonists who wants to do socially critical work can publish their work without compromising it and therefore find their own voice.